Hello, my favorite people and friends. Thank you for tuning in today. Welcome to Everything is for You, the podcast where we embrace the belief that every experience shapes us, every challenge strengthens us, and every opportunity is a step towards our personal evolution. It's believing that everything is happening for us, not to us, that the universe always conspires in our favor, even in our darkest moments. Today's episode is called Found in the Flight, Embracing Rejection and Thriving Through Self-Discovery. Today's episode is going to be a little shorter, and I'm doing this solo. My apologies for the silence last week. Time has a habit of slipping through our fingers, and I've been extremely busy, which is a beautiful thing, but I'm very dedicated to this podcast, and it's a great healing tool for myself. And I figure, hey, if there's any piece of nuggets that somebody can get through this, then it just warms my heart. Next week, we are very excited because we are going to have my dear friend Jenny Lee of Warpaint. We've been friends for, I think, almost 30 years. And her episode's coming up, and you do not want to miss this episode. We're going to talk about heartache, healing, the human experience, trauma, heartbreak from the perspective of the heartbreaker. It's going to be fascinating, and we're really going to get in there. It even might be a part 2 episode because we have so much to dive into. So on today's episode, it's going to be short, like I said. I have something I want to share with you all. I want to talk about rejection. I know I've mentioned this in the past on a couple other episodes, but I have some new insight, and I just really wanted to share it because I know it's something that I've gone through in my heartbreak and going through a divorce, and I felt very rejected. And so I've come up with some new insight, and let's dive into it. I mentioned on another podcast that rejection is God's protection, which is a really cool line. Like, rejection is God's protection. And if you think about that, it's like you're navigating into a different path, and you think that you want this path, but they keep rejecting you, right? So really, it's an awakening to understand that it's time to move down a different path, right? I think it's a really cool concept. Having navigated through my breakup, and I was really trying to be friends with my ex, and I knew it was way too soon, but I thought, oh, but we've been best friends and we love each other. Why can't we be friends? And she pushed back because she was still in the healing. I was as well, but I felt very rejected by her a lot. And I guess it takes me a while to really go, okay, wait, what am I supposed to be learning from this? And but I kept, then I'd give it like 6 months. Hey, you want to be friends? And she still wasn't ready. I just kept feeling rejected, and I kept saying, well, I'm not going to be, I can't be rejected anymore. But then as I started doing some deep diving in what rejection really is, it's fascinating. So I have a whole new view of rejection. Rejection is not a blockade, but a redirection. I'm going to say that again. Rejection is not a blockade, but a redirection. So you're in the depths of being rejected. Your heart hurts and you feel like, you're never going to heal. But I promise you, you will heal. I mean, coming out of this divorce, I'm about 1.5 years in, and I've gone through serious transition and been healing my wounds. And I know time moves a lot slower when you're in these difficult moments, when your heart hurts. Time just is like that thing that people say, it's going to take time. It's going to take time. And usually time for us when you're an adult, it's like boom, boom, boom. It goes so fast. But when you're in pain and hurting, time, it is a tough one. But if you stick through it, I promise you that it gets better, and there is fucking a bright light at the end of that darkness, and I guarantee it. And I was in it. So I understand if anybody is going through that, and I send my love and my heart. And you know, there is everything is for you podcast at gmail.com. If for anybody that wants to email me and talk to me, you know, please, I would love to hear from you. And also, you know, if you could rate us and just like hit those the 5 stars and make a comment, it does more for this little tiny podcast than you could ever imagine. So if you could take a moment to do that, I would really, really appreciate it. But back into and let's get back into the topic. So rejection comes in many forms, right? It's like this comes from a friend at work, or a boss that's not promoting you, or a friend that might be becoming very distant, or a lover that broke up with you, or your ex not wanting to be friends with you. There are so many things to that can be considered rejection, right? And, you know, rejection hurts and it doesn't feel good. It makes us insecure. It makes us feel less, you know, there's a lot of feelings and emotions that come from rejection. It's not a fun place to be. And I know this because, as I said, I was going through that. And it's a tough place to be. But rejection is, if we go back to saying, okay, rejection is God's protection, and you start looking at it from that point of view, then it becomes a whole different world. And so let me explain. I was taking my dog for a walk this morning, my beautiful little Paco, and I was listening to my Insight Timer app, my meditation app. And a lot of times I listen to talks and stories and that kind of stuff. And there was this story that I was listening to by I hope I'm saying her name right. Lai Tattis. She was telling a story about rejection. And I found so many pieces in this story that I could resonate with. And I really wanted to share that with you guys today. So if you think about it, rejection is a stepping stone on a path to self-discovery, an invitation to grander adventures that you've unknowingly been preparing for. I'm going to say that again because it's a lot. Rejection is a stepping stone on a path to self-discovery, an invitation to grander adventure that you've unknowingly been preparing for. I was like, poof, total epiphany, bomb drop. I was like, wow, that is some good tools right there. It's like the trees losing their leaves in the fall, right? The trees don't moan the loss of their leaves. They understand it's part of the larger cycle dictated by the seasons, right? They use this opportunity to gain strength, rest, and prepare for new growth. Okay, so I'm going to say that again because it's these are good bites. So trees lose their leaves and they know that it's the larger cycle dictated by seasons. So they use this opportunity to gain strength, rest, and prepare for new growth. And isn't that what we are doing? Isn't that what we should be doing? We should be taking the opportunity to gain our strength back, rest, and prepare for new growth. Because the entire all of our story is built into these chapters, and these chapters are our growth. And if you don't grow, then you're not really turning the pages and writing new stories, right? So I mean, if you really think about if we could become more like trees, I know it sounds corny, but if we could become more like trees, the happier we would be, and the world would be such a better place. Okay, so I saw this post and it said, it was one tree, and it said, be like a tree. And then it said, if you're like a tree, you're sharing resources, you're staying grounded, you grow towards the light, you provide shelter for others, you adapt to life seasons, you waste nothing, and you do not fear darkness, and you become flexible in a storm. And I was like, that is so cool, and that is my goal. I'm going to become more like a tree. I think the trees have a lot to teach us, and I just thought that was really powerful. You know, At some point in our lives, we all go to these coping mechanisms that we have built since childhood, since young adulthood, and we all have these coping mechanisms that are familiar to us. They're these second habits, this familiarity in times of stress, heartache, maybe we have overcompensated in relationships. Maybe we're trying to control our relationship or our work life or ourselves, whatever, and we all know that we can't control anything but ourselves. But at some point in our life, we've all used numbing agents, I would call them, to cope, to self cope. And I know I have in the past. And I'm sure I know a lot of my friends have in the past. And all of these coping mechanisms, at some point in our life, we use them, right? Whether that's drinking, smoking, overeating, working too much, sleeping too much. I mean, these are all coping mechanisms, and they come from familiar places. So anytime we go through anxiety or new change or whatever, we get scared, and we kind of just automatically, it's in our subconscious, we just automatically shift to these coping mechanisms that we've had most of our life. And I'm saying it's time to change that. It's time to really be aware of these coping mechanisms, what a familiar thing is, because let's get rid of the bad habits. I know that this is the path I'm on. And look, I still stumble on this. Like, it's not easy to change habits, and it's not easy to, build yourself up to change into a new, healthier things and let go of stuff that doesn't serve you. It's okay. And it's time for us to turn the corner on these. It's time to make better choices. No matter how complicated, no matter how difficult it is to make a different choice, we must make different choices to grow, right? So this is the path I'm on. I'm taking my bad habits and I'm working on changing them into good habits. And like I said, it is not easy, but I'm dedicated to doing it because I'm dedicated to growth. I'm dedicated to changing my story, making that new chapter. It's time we thank these coping mechanisms and say thank you, because they did serve a purpose for us, whether that was because we had trauma happen to us when we were young, whatever it is. They served a purpose. Even if they were really destructive, they served a purpose at that time, because that was a lesson that we had to learn, right? So let's thank them and let's turn the page. So we have the power to change these in any moment. This second, we can change it tonight, tomorrow, next month, but we have the power to change anything for ourselves at any moment. And if we're living in the now, it's just each moment. It doesn't matter if, even if you fell back onto a bad habit, you can go, okay, that's okay. Let's change it now. This is not who we are. Our bad habits are not who we are. Well, who we are is we're growing, resilient, amazing spiritual beings in this amazing, fascinating, brilliant human body, and we are living a story. And I know I've talked about stories a lot and changing stories, but it's all these little stepping stones in life that create our story. And then now we have the opportunity to change it. So these are chapters. They are not our life. These are chapters, and we can rewrite the chapter, and we can turn a page and create a new chapter at any moment. So if this resonates with you, then maybe it's time to turn your page and start your next chapter and setting yourself free from some of these past things that don't serve you anymore. And it's time to reach out to heal ourselves instead of reaching outside of ourselves and numb ourselves, right? So it's time to reach within ourselves instead of reaching outside of ourselves to numb. That I had said this in another podcast too, staying stagnant. It's just not who we are. It's not what we are here for. We are here to learn, grow, and remember. And I'm ready. I'm writing that chapter right now, and I know it's easier said than done, believe me. And I am on this path, and I wanted to share this path with you because my new chapter is is a beautiful thing. And sometimes I fall back on new things, but that's okay, because then I just continue to write a new story the next moment. And, I don't kick myself in the butt for it. I accept whatever I'm going through at the time. And I love myself and I honor myself through it. And we just have to, really be dedicated to making these changes and commitment and make a commitment. And it's not always easy, man. And I totally get it. And yeah, but anyways, I wanted to share my journey. And maybe this resonates, maybe it doesn't, but I know that I'm in the process of creating new habits, kicking bad habits out, and feeling really, really positive and good about it. Okay, I have a story that I want to read to you. It's a short story. I was listening to my Insight Timer app, my meditation app, and I was listening to this spiritual leader named Ganji. She's a spiritual leader from, I believe she started in the 70s. I know she was pretty big in the 80s and the 90s. But I listened to a lot of her talks, and I was listening to one of her talks, and she read this letter from a woman in Brazil in 1998. And so this letter was mailed to Ganji. This is before cell phones, before text messaging. This is when we only had payphones. And this woman is in Brazil. And the title of the letter was "Let Yourself Be Found." And when I heard that, before I even listened to this, I was like, there's something attracted me to let yourself be found. And I thought, what does that mean? So anyways, Ganji read this letter, and I was so motivated from this letter that I went home and I listened in my earphones, and I wrote every word down into my journal by hand. And since then, I have read this letter to several friends, and I've sent this letter to several friends that are going through certain things. So I thought I would share it with you and see if it resonates. So here it is. This is a unknown woman in Brazil in 1998. I had an interesting experience with fear 2 days ago when visiting a friend. I had been there twice before, and I knew how to get to my friend's house. In the neighborhood, there are only dirt roads and pastures on the hills, no signs, no street lights, etc. At night, you can't see anything but your car lights and how far they can reach, and that is very little. I got very close to the house. Well, let's say I got very close to home, but somehow I could not find it. I drove for an hour and a half in circles, and I recognized some places, and after circling a lot, I started feeling exhausted, and fear began to crawl in. At first, I told myself, there's no reason to be afraid. I was very close, and I will find it sooner or later. But then I saw I was just avoiding the fear, and I stopped, and I let myself be taken by the fear of being lost, being abandoned. I was shaken by it. I cried and I cried and I yelled in my car. After some minutes, I realized I was extremely tired, and it was not worth fighting for. I wanted to stop searching. There was this thought, why should I keep on struggling to find it? I better stop, rest, and let myself be found. I thought I'll look for a payphone and call my friend, and he will come rescue me. And I didn't need to prove anything. So after driving around in the middle of nowhere, I found a payphone in front of a closed grocery store. It was the middle of nowhere, and it was already 11 p.m., and it was completely dark. The sky was clouded, and the moon was hidden. I called my friend, and he came to get me. I was so close to his house that he came walking. I had passed in front of his gate many, many times. I had even noticed the beautiful flowers growing on each side. I was expecting a different gate, a green gate, and he had a brown gate. What a trick of the mind. I got so entangled in the surge in my attempt to find it by myself that I overlooked it, and all the time it was right there in front of my eyes. Thinking about this experience later, I saw the same pattern of looking for what we desire most accept where it really is, and how we become attached to the search, to the excitement of it, to prove something like how independent or clever we are. And there is so much energy and time unnecessarily spent that all that is needed is to give up the search and surrender everything, and to recognize that there is nothing I can do anymore but stop and let myself be found. Now, I don't know why that story resonated with me so much, but it did. And I think that the message I was getting from this story was, we're just constantly trying to search for something ourselves, love, a better job, more money, all these things, instead of letting the universe just flow. It's like I feel like this is just saying, just flow, let yourself be found and flow. So I hope it resonates with you. I really enjoyed it. You know, it was something during a time where I was just constantly searching. And then when I heard that, I was like, I'm going to stop. I'm surrendering. I surrender. And when I did, I just felt so much better. And I started to grow in a different way, and I started to heal in a different way. And one more last thing that I want to talk about before I go is manifestation. I have been manifesting for a very long time, but through my breakup, I started manifesting certain things. And then I started feeling like, wow, this is really taking a long time. But then when I really looked, it hasn't taken a long time. It's actually things that I've been manifesting are definitely showing up, just in different ways than I thought they were. And so many people, so many things that we do in our life is we don't even realize that what we've asked for, we actually have. And the universe has actually given it to us. It's just not exactly the way that we asked for it, because that's not the way that it's supposed to be coming. So if you're a manifester and you're searching, or you're looking into manifestation, and you feel like it's not happening, take another look, because I bet you it is. It's just in different ways. Well, my friends, that, like I said, today's episode is a shorter one. I just wanted to touch base and send some good nuggets, hopefully, and just keep you up to date with my healing process. I feel great. It's been a year and a half, and my heart is I feel heart centered. I'm working on several different projects. I just feel really happy. And I recently had a birthday, and a group of my closest friends came up, and we rotated throughout this house that we rented in the desert. And my heart was just so filled with joy. And all of the social media posts of happy birthday, it's just like, it's so wonderful. And I am just so grateful for every breath that I have on this earth, every day of my life. I'm grateful for everything I have right now. So I'm grateful for this podcast. I'm grateful for reaching out to all of you. And I look forward to coming back in 2 weeks with my good friend Jenny Lee. And please reach out again. Everything is for you podcast at gmail.com. I'd love to talk to you. I'd love to hear from you. And again, please comment and give us a rating. It really, really helps. And sending so much love and light. And thank you. And I'll see you again soon. Bye.